You may not negotiate often in your life, but when you do, I bet you wish you were more prepared. After watching this video, I promise you'll walk into your next negotiation with more confidence, because today I'll be breaking down exactly what the top deal makers know and do to stay in control and walk away with more favorable outcomes every single time. The ideas from these two books are all you really need, I promise. We have Never Split the Difference by Voss, a former FBI negotiator. This is a book that I've referenced before on the channel. We also have this book right here, Negotiation Genius. Now this book, I would say, is totally different from Never Split the Difference in the sense that it's what they teach in business school, really. These are not abstract theories. Whether you're at a used car dealership or you're buying your house or you're negotiating a salary increase, these are tools that you can use, and it's almost unfair how the balance of power shifts once you use them. Let's start with number one, adjust your mindset. The very first thing that you have to do before entering any negotiation whatsoever is to define your BATNA. Now, your BATNA is an acronym that stands for your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. This is a term that is defined in the Negotiation Genius. It is explained in detail. It is also taught at business school. You will negotiate differently if you know that you have a strong backup plan if this doesn't work. Because without a BATNA, you may feel pressured. You may feel the need to make this work. And this is super dangerous because now you're letting your emotions come in and you're gonna feel overwhelmed. For example, let's say I have a viewing booked at this property right here that I like. I've been eyeing it for a while. Actually, let's say that I love, right? Just to put more emphasis on my emotions and how they can be misleading. So I love this property. I've been eyeing it for a while. However, it needs a few renovations. Also, the price is too high. So obviously negotiations are gonna happen, but before I even enter that phase, I have to ask myself, what is my alternative if this deal doesn't work out? If I already own a home, I mean, the answer is simple, right? I might just go back home, resume my everyday life like nothing changed, and maybe keep looking, maybe. But if I don't yet own a home, I need to think about how many other properties have I seen that I like? How many other properties that I see were like this one? How many properties are being listed every month? What kind of market are we in? Is it a buyer's market where there's more homes for sale than there are buyers searching? These are all questions that you have to ask yourself if you don't have a strong BATNA, because you still need to create some sort of BATNA. You still need to create a backup plan. You need to fix up here before entering any negotiation so you don't let your emotions affect you at all. Knowing your BATNA does not let emotions cloud your judgment. You'll know exactly how far you can push while still walking away with a favorable outcome. So that's the first thing you have to do in all deals, all negotiations. Number two is one of the most powerful principles from Never Split the Difference. It's to give the other side the illusion that they're in charge. Salespeople do this all the time, okay? They're even taught to do it because they want to build an environment where you feel safe to speak. And the side that does most of the talking is the side that is also revealing the most information, right? So that means they're the most vulnerable. Now, how do you give the other side the illusion that they're in charge? It's very simple. It's by asking calibrated questions. So instead of making demands, you ask things like, what do you want me to do? How do you want to proceed? These questions sound harmless, okay? But what it does is it forces the other side to elaborate, to keep going, to reveal more information to us, right? Whether it's their priorities, their constraints, or their emotions. You sit there quietly gathering all of this information, which builds even more leverage for your ideas that are to come. Here's an example. Let's say they come to us and say, I need you to raise your offer. So if I just accept, and my response is something along the lines of, okay, well, I can go up maybe $1,000, but that's it. Right then and there, what that does is, one, it tells the other side that you're weak, okay? That's all it took, and you've already increased your amount. And two, well, your willingness to pay is higher than what you told me. You've now put the other side in full control because you're responding to their demands. Let's say for the sake of this example, it was to buy a house, right? They come to me, I need you to raise your offer. What you do instead is you say, how am I supposed to do that? And the way that you can say that in a nice manner without sounding insulting, right? I could start pointing things out like roof shingles, crack in the foundation, the deck, this and that. The two other comparables down the road, How am I supposed to do that? So now the pressure shifts back onto them, okay? What that does is they feel the need to justify the why behind their demand. They're not just ordering you to raise your price. You're now ordering them to tell me why you just said that, right? Explain to me why, sell it to me. And then while you sit there and they're talking, once again, you're gathering leverage, you're gaining information. It gives you time to also value their argument. You've also now just given them the illusion of control because they're the ones doing most of the talking. They're going to feel in charge because they feel like they're leading the conversation because they're choosing the words. And we all know that's not the case because who brought them to this point? My questions. It's like giving them the keys to the car, but you're the one setting the GPS. Although you're not the one that's driving the vehicle, you are the one deciding where we're going. You want them playing in your field, not the other way around. That's how you stay in control. Before we move on to the third point, I'd just like to mention that almost 99% of you are still not subscribed. If you enjoy videos like this, then hitting the like and subscribe button is the best way to show your support, and I would truly appreciate it. Number 3 is one of my favorite Chris Voss principles, and it's this: never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't accept something better. Most people go into a negotiation in tunnel vision, right? They've already decided the exact number or exact outcome that they're looking for, and they'll accept no less. But the problem with that is when you're too rigid, you may miss opportunities that could even be better. For example, let's say you're going to buy a house. You're fixated on getting $25,000 off the asking price. That's your whole focus. What if the seller cannot move much on the price, but they're willing to include all the furniture, or agree to cover $10,000 in closing costs, or they agree to cover property taxes for the year following the closing date? These are all examples of options that could occur, right? And this brings real value, and you would have missed this if you were only chasing that one outcome. You see this play out on Shark Tank all the time, right? You'll have somebody come in that says,
and we're here today seeking $200,000 in exchange for a 5% equity stake.
And then one of the sharks counter with something creative like a royalty deal or strategic partnerships. I mean, take a look at this proposition that Damon made on Shark Tank to a company that didn't have the cash flow to increase their supply to match demand.
So our counter to that would be $200,000 at 15% with a $200,000 line of credit.
I'll tell you what, I'll try to meet you somewhere in the middle. I'm going to finance the inventory, $200,000 for 17.5%. That's it.
No line of credit.
No, I'm financing the goods. I'm on the hook for the goods right now.
All right. You have a deal.
The ones who stay open often walk out with a deal that's worth even more than their original ask. That's the point. Flexibility is power, right? If you leave the door open to explore alternative solutions, you may even walk away with results that you didn't even realize were possible. So yes, set your targets, but don't lock the door on something better. Number 4 is another principle straight out of Never Split the Difference, and it's the power of tactical silence. Right after you ask one of those why or how questions, stop talking. People hate silence. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and that silence is your weapon. Use it. When you hold the pause, the other side feels the need to jump in and fill the gap. And 9 times out of 10, I promise you, they'll just start saying things just to break the silence. And by doing this, they might reveal new information, backpedal on their demand, or even sweeten the deal, all because you remain silent. So for example, we're back at the used car dealership, right? And the salesperson goes, I can't go lower than $15,000. Okay, rather than arguing whatever and responding right away, sit there in silence. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him, and he goes, I can't go lower than $15,000. That little bit of silence right there, they'll jump back in every time. I promise. Every single time. Because they feel like they just lost you. They might even jump back in and say something like, but I can go check with my manager. And as Chris Voss puts it, silence is not weakness, it's a strategy. The key is simple. Ask and then wait. Silence is uncomfortable, but it keeps you in control. Moving on, number 5 is the power of anchoring. Now, this is something taught in business school. This is something taught in the Negotiation Genius book. People naturally gravitate around that first figure, even if it's arbitrary, okay? Every offer, every counter offer will orbit around that initial amount. Anchoring is one of the most powerful negotiation tactics that you can use. Whoever sets the first credible number frames the entire deal. Emphasis on the first credible number because you can, in higher level negotiations, you can just throw a lower or higher number depending on which side of the transaction you're on, just to have a read of the room, right? You need to know what you're doing here because you don't want to upset the other side and make them feel like it's just a waste of time. Definitely a good strategy if you know what you're doing. But the key is balance, because if you anchor too aggressively, then you'll just lose interest on the other side. But you're anchoring just right. Now you've just reshaped the entire negotiation. Now, in a perfect world, I never want to be the first one to throw out a number because that reveals a ton of information. But when you do anchor successfully, it reshapes the entire deal. For example, let's say a seller is listing their home at 600K instead of the initial 650K that they were thinking, right? Or that they already did list at before. This lower number acts as an anchor that instantly makes the property feel more reasonable. And every buyer will begin their negotiation from there. Now, if you flip it around and the seller lists at 650, we'll say, right? But the home's real market value is closer to that 600K mark. Well, if a buyer comes in at 585, that's a $65,000 gap, which might sound massive. But if it's based on true market value and both sides know that, it becomes a credible anchor that resets the entire negotiation. You'll see the same thing at a used car dealership or when you're negotiating your salary increase. The first credible number becomes the gravitational pull for everything else that follows. The first number doesn't just open the game, it decides how it's played. So the best negotiators don't bully, right? They listen, they prepare, and they create the illusion of control to the other side. Use your BATNA. Ask calibrated questions and never be so sure of what you want that you would not accept something better. Do these 5 things and I promise you're going to stop feeling defensive all the time and you're going to start negotiating like a pro. If you found some value out of this video, then consider liking and subscribing. Truly the best way to show your support, and I would truly appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one.